Hello and welcome to another episode of Lost Gotham TV. This is, I'm losing count now, probably the sixth or seventh video in the series looking at Richard Laymon's books. And again, we're moving forward chronologically again. I'm just going to check exactly when this was published. Okay, 1983. Okay, so there's probably some stuff in between. I don't remember the exact list, but we're back still at the beginning of his career. And if you watched my last video where I talk about Your Secret Admirer, you'll already be familiar with the pseudonym that he used of Carl Laymon. So this is another book he wrote and released under Carl Laymon, and he did it in 1983, and this is called Nightmare Lake. Okay, it is another book for children. And again, anyone who's read his later books is kind of like, children's books. But again, I will remind you, I've talked about this in earlier videos. Just because somebody makes mature content doesn't mean that they can't also make children's content. I believe I think, I could be wrong, but I think Stephen King has released at least one children's book. Dean Koontz has released a children's book, I think, at least one. And so Richard Laymon did too earlier in his career, and he also did again up at the end of his career. One of the last books that he published himself before dying is called The Halloween Mouse. And I recently managed to win an auction for The Halloween Mouse, so it is on its way. I'll be getting it and reading it in the future. It's one I haven't read. So yeah, even though he wrote a lot of books for mature audiences, he also wrote a handful, very few things that are safe for kids. Okay, and again, I picked this up recently on eBay. It is part of a series called Twilight, Where the Darkness Begins. And after I realized that, it kind of scared me a little bit. It kind of shocked me. With the realization that Richard Laymon wrote a Twilight book. Not the biggest fan of Twilight. I can't even think of the author's name right now. Congratulations on her for getting those books published, but I think Stephen King said it best when he talked about them. He compared them to, say, the Harry Potter books, where the Harry Potter books are about friendship and overcoming issues and working together in teams and the strength of friendship. Whereas the Twilight books are about how important it is to get a boyfriend or have a boyfriend. And yeah, I'm not going to say anything disparaging about the author of the Twilight books. I can't even think of her name. But yeah, if you're going to read a children's book, I'd much more recommend something like Nightmare Lake, or this very much reminded me of books that I read when I was an adolescent, like R.L. Stine books, or in particular, there was a series of books called Point Horror. And this was in England. I don't know if it's an American thing or not. I'd meant to look it up. And I didn't get around to doing that. But if you're familiar with Point Horror books, then this is kind of in a similar vein. So, Nightmare Lake, as it says on the back, it started off as a family vacation, but when Bert and his sister Sammy discover the remains of a human skeleton hidden in the woods, it's just the beginning of the horror. Okay, so I'll leave it there. I won't read the rest. And so, yeah, it's a story about a young guy, I think he was about 16, and his younger sister, who's about 13, 14. And they're out boating, and they have their dog with them, and the dog jumps out of the boat and swims to a nearby island that they've been told not to go to. And on the island, they chase the dog onto the island, and you can see on the cover here, the young girl finds a skeleton, and the dog's there, and I won't spoil any more of the story. This is just stuff that happens at the beginning of the story. And yeah, for the rest of it, it's these young kids, and there are the parents. There are some other families that are also staying in cabins and resorts and things that are on the lake. And yeah, it's a little bit of a kind of a mystery of kind of who is this body, this dead skeletal remains that they've found. Who did they belong to? And some more stuff goes on. I won't. I don't want to spoil the story. I definitely recommend reading it. Again, you might be able to pick up a copy of it, sort of in the $10 to $20 range. For collectors, I definitely recommend it. It does have, again, those Layman-esque qualities that you can tell, even though it's aimed towards children, and there's that teenage puppy love romance, kind of fledgling romance stuff going on. So not the sexual content of his more mature books, but even with the very diluted kind of teenage angst, yearning towards sex, the implication of it, there is some there. But it's children's book. It's suitable for children, at least teenage young adult readers. It doesn't have anything in it that is super questionable. There is some blood and some threat of violence and stuff in there. So it has the kind of the dramatic tension in there that still make it enjoyable, at least for me as a mature reader. I still enjoyed it a lot, and I definitely recommend it. Not amongst the best, but a solid Laymon book that I do recommend. That's it. I'll let you go. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If go ahead and leave me a comment. Am I doing okay with these book reviews? If I'm doing a crap job, go ahead and tell me. But try to give me some constructive pointers as well. I've seen several other people doing reviews of Richard Laymon's books, and I've had issues with them. I hope I'm doing at least as good a job as those. Okay, so we're here to have fun. We're here to share our love of reading, and in particular Richard Laymon. So let me know what you think in the comments below. And I will let you go, but I will see you next time.